Wow, 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 wow. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. Yes, we have our guests here, and we have Rosemary Awe, and we have Titilola Danso. Thank you for joining me today. And yes, for those sorry, that's a replay, so let's try and reduce that. That's me. Sorry. Sorry, that's me. Yeah, so thanks for joining us today. And today they are going to be sharing with us hacks, easy steps. At some point you need to hear from experts on steps and things you need to know so that you're financially free. And I want you to all get your questions ready because they are ready for you. They are ready to answer your questions. They are going to be talking to us a lot about emergency funds, protection, investment, and those questions that have remained unanswered. This is the time for you to get them ready. Now, this is the Bola Adeyeye Omishade show. Thanks for joining. If this is your first time, and there, for those that have been our consistent viewers, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me. And as usual, I'm always excited that you're here. Do not forget to like this if you enjoy everything we've shared. Share with your family, share with your friends, and feel free to subscribe as well. So yeah, let's go to the deal for the day. Rosemary, what do you have for us? Yes.
Thank you very much, Bola. Thank you for having me back again. We had a session last week, which was very insightful and interesting. And today we're continuing from last week's session. And today I'm going to be talking about topic that is very, very important, and it's emergency funds. So what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is money put aside to quickly handle unexpected situations. So let me put it this way. Emergency funds can be likened to a spare tire. We all have spare tires in our cars. I presume most of us drive. So we know that we need a spare tire. So once you get a puncture, you put to the side and you change your tire and you continue on your destination. So what are the unexpected situations that you can use an emergency fund for? A loss of job, to quickly fix a boiler that's broken down, to fix your car, or if you have a bereavement. So how much should you have in an emergency fund? Ranging from £1,000 to 3 to 6 months salary. And this should be consistent. And if at all you use the money, it should be topped up. So why do you need an emergency fund? To feel secure, to know you have a solution to the problem. Many people, when an emergency pops up, we are thrown, we are thrown into chaos because we don't know where to get the money for. We start running around, calling friends, calling family, trying to use overdraft, trying to use our credit cards, which, really gets us into debts. So why do we also need an emergency fund? To cope with the stress the situation may bring. For example, worry, anxiety, and sometimes it can lead to depression if you don't know where the money is coming from and the boiler in the house has broken down and you're right in winter period. You have children in the house that are crying, there's no hot water, and basically you can't do your basic essentials. So it also gives you a sense of relief and a glimpse of hope, knowing that you have a backup. And lastly, so that you don't have to dip into your overdraft or pawn your valuable possessions. And I think a lot of us may identify with this. I mean, I had a friend who, I think when an emergency came up, had to actually go and resort to taking something to a cash converter, or you may decide to go and, take your gold and they give you what they feel is worth. And would you ever be able to retrieve that sentimental possession from cash converters if you don't have any money? Now, remember, you're still going to pay interest. So emergency funds are really, they're called lifesavers. They're like lifelines. And every household should have, or every woman, or everyone, I should say, should have an emergency fund.
Yeah, but well, one question I have is, unfortunately, some people are not, and they're not in the position or maybe, for example, maybe their income does not leave the opportunity to put something aside. Maybe especially in the UK, you have lots and lots of bills, and for some people, sadly, even maybe on the second day of being paid, the whole money they have is gone to all the bills and all that. For what sort of advice would you say that they should still try to put something aside? Because it can be really hard. And of
Um,
course, these
yes,
people, of course, might be faced with emergency needs as well. So
yeah. I mean, I think whoever this person is actually needs to do a financial planning.
hmm,
You need to sit down and plan. Write down your expenses, write down your outgoings. What are your needs? What are your wants? Because most of us focus on wants. Most of us buy a lot of things that we don't need.
yeah,
And if you have a lot of things you don't need, please put them on eBay, put them on, put them on Amazon and have them sold off. Or you can go on, there are many sites out there where you can sell off the things you don't need. Some of us amass a lot of things that we don't need. For example, I bought a nail, I was into nails then. So I bought this machine to do it. I've not used it in a long time. It's sitting there. If I need some money or if I really want to, you know, add to my emergency fund, I can just have that sold off.
yeah,
Most of us, spend money on unnecessary things. And some of us want to be like Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones. So we keep buying things, trying to compete with our friends. And sometimes our friends may, you know, earn more than us.
yeah,
Sometimes they have, what's it called, a partner that earns very well. And if you're a lone parent and you can't actually compete with your a married friend, unless, of course, you have passive income coming in. But
mm,
the key to having an emergency fund is to actually divide your salary into four. 10% goes, I think I mentioned this last week,
last week, yeah,
10% goes, yes, towards your savings, your investment. 10% goes towards your emergency funds. 10% goes towards your giving. If you want to give towards charity, if you give in church, if you want to bless somebody, and then the 70% is what you spend in for the rest of the month. Some of us overspend. Some of us go to do our weekly shopping and we see buy one get one free or something like that. We don't need it, and yet we buy this thing. Some of us need to practice what they call delayed gratification. It's not everything that you see that you have to buy. So um, for that family that is struggling, you actually need financial planning. You need to have somebody who can teach you financial education, which is where myself and Titi come in, where we can help you sit down and look at your finances. Where can you save money? Where are the hidden monies? We can help you look at that. And then obviously, after that, then you can have your emergency money put aside. And it has to be 10% of what you earn monthly, or if you're paid weekly, then it will be weekly. Question. I don't know if
yes. I,
Titilola
I,
has
I think I,
something to add to it.
I absolutely, yeah. Oh, Titilola, do you have anything to say in regards to that? Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with Rosemary. We need to have a plan on, having emergency funds so that we have a buffer, something we can always fall back on, and you don't need to buy everything. If you have buy one get one free or 50% off and you don't actually need that item, they've not succeeded in saving you 50%, they've succeeded in taking your money off you. And
Yeah.
then you have a house filled with unnecessary things. And you
Yeah.
can't monetize these items. You can't take them to the bank. It isn't a good means of exchange. You
Mm.
can't use it to plan a good future when you buy everything you see. So, like Rosemary has said, you need to have a plan in place and have a solid financial planning, and have emergency fund handy that you can rely on.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think somebody was saying to me a couple of, I can't remember who, but recently somebody was saying, okay, for example, you pay for Sky and you pay for all these additional channels, but how many channels do you watch at the same time?
True,
So why
true.
don't you just get rid of, you start paying additional £2 or additional £1, that actually piles up. And I also had a friend who was recently saying to me, I think it was last year, I think last year February, and she said she was going to save £2 every day. So she set up a standing order of £2 to get off her account into some other account. And by the time it was December, I think it was over £600 or something.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so it was £2 every day. She set up the standing order. So unconsciously, that money comes out of her account. So
Yes.
those
Yeah.
tiny little bit of things that you put aside goes a long way. But
Can I
then,
add to this, please?
yes, please, yeah.
Emergency funds, please, when you do have it, do not put it in your checking account. It has to be in another account, maybe with another bank. And
Mm,
please, you have to emotionally distance yourself from your emergency fund. It's not something that you're checking every day.
every
And it's not
day.
something that is readily accessible. It can be accessible, but not readily accessible. So that means that not, you can access it,
Mm,
by maybe a passbook or in another account, but you don't have online access to it so that you can, immediately transfer it into your account. You have to distance yourself from the money. You can't keep checking every day. So how much is my emergency fund? So how much is my emergency fund? Because by looking at it, one day something that looks like a non-emergency will come up, and you will just immediately transfer it. And the end of year sale is not an emergency. Going
mm.
on vacation is not an emergency. Putting a down payment for your house is not an emergency. Emergency is emergency. And that means that something that happens suddenly, and you're trying to, and you have the means, you have the money there to actually deal with that emergency. And then you put the money back, you top it back, so that the money goes back to what it was. To wait for another emergency that, might occur, because we never know when emergencies will occur.
Yeah, and yeah, in addition to what you have actually said, I had somebody who was saying to me recently, that, Bola, have you started investing? And I said, well, I really don't know a lot about, he was saying stock market and investing in stock market. And I said, well, I don't really have an idea. And I've had people in the past, well, I know one of my elder brother, he has lots of all these shares and all those things. But he just gets the receipts and all that. I think I mentioned it last year, but I don't have an
Mm.
idea of what investing is. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about investment. But before I do that, if you have any questions, anywhere you're watching, please can you leave your question, because I don't think this is an opportunity for Titilola and Rosemary to answer our questions, and as well as, I don't know if Titilola can also talk about protection, because that is another one. So we're going to talk about protection, and we're going to talk about investment, because all these have been going in I actually got ready for these questions because it's an opportunity. Yeah, it's true, because I've been hearing people talk about, oh, Paula, what protection plan do you have in place? And I'm like, protection plan, and investment. So these are things that it's just traveling around recently. So I don't know who is going to go first. Titilola, do you want to talk about protection first? Or Rosemary?
Yes, yes, I will, Dr. Bola. Thanks for bringing us back. Rosemary, what do you think? We must have done something right the first time.
Yes,
I
I
know.
think so.
Yeah,
Yes, I think
and
so.
I actually prepared. I just made up my mind. I was going to put these questions in my head to ask you because, and it's not every day you get experts who actually enlighten you on things like this.
Yeah, yeah. We'll try our best. Planning your financial futures, planning to have a solid financial future is like learning to drive a car, like
Mm,
Rosemary said before, giving the example of the car. And protection is the airbags. She talked about emergencies. When you protect yourself, you are protecting yourself against the unexpected. You are
mm,
protecting against loss, eventualities, things you can't control. And in simple terms, when we talk about protection, we're talking about insurance.
mm,
What sort of covers do you have in place? And what is an insurance? An insurance is something you use to protect yourself from losing money or protecting yourself against something bad happening in the future.
mm,
And we can't really predict what is going to happen. Look at COVID. COVID has happened and nobody, foresaw it. Nobody planned it. It wasn't on the cards at all. But there were a lot of losses. And I think people have learned a lot from this because a lot of people were caught out. And protecting yourself again is about risk management.
mm,
You use your protection to edge against the risk of a contingency or uncertain loss. So, in looking at insurance, there are different types of insurance. We have life insurance, which is insuring yourself to provide for your family's future in case you unfortunately die. Home
mm,
insurance is also protecting your household in case something happens. Something bad happens. Maybe there's a flood, there's a fire. You have that as a backup. Car insurance, we know what car insurance is. Travel insurance, health insurance, sickness insurance. So there are different types that we can have, and it is sometimes a bit tricky when you speak to people, and they don't really believe in it. And I ask them, we always ask this question: if you have a goose that lays golden eggs, would you protect the goose or the eggs? And people have different explanations, different looking at it from different points of view. Some people will tell you, oh, I'll protect the eggs are golden, and it's like the chicken and the egg type of scenario. If I protect the egg, then the egg can hatch more geese. And I said, okay, what of looking at it from the other side? If you protect the goose, what happens? Oh, it can lay more eggs. So the right answer for that is you protect the goose, because the goose is the person, the goose is the individual, the goose is the breadwinner. And when the breadwinner is protected, it means the family's future is provided for. It means the goose can lay more eggs. The possessions can be protected. You can't provide anything. You can't replace the possession if you're gone. So protection is very, very important. And there are different ways to protect yourself. You have term life covers, you have all of life covers. So I can expatiate on that later. Over to you, Rosemary. Do you have anything to say?
Yes, protection. Um, it is important to have some sort of protection. Um, Protect your life. Somebody once said, you don't buy life insurance, for you because you're going to die. You buy life insurance because of the people you leave behind. The people you leave behind are still mourning. It will be nice for them to have something, to carry on instead of, um, having to think about how to pay for funeral expenses because that has not been covered. So it is important to have life cover in place. What about sickness cover when you fall ill?
mm,
You can't do things for yourself. You can't go to work. Some people do zero contract hours, and that means that you don't get paid. You don't get paid when you are, when you fall asleep, when you fall, sick. So what happens then? If you have something in place, at least that pays out for whatever ailment that you have, be it um, be it severe or not. And I will leave Titi to actually cover the different types of sickness cover, or the covers, the protection we have for sickness?
Yes, we have sickness cover, and we have two types, two major types: serious illness cover and critical illness cover. Like Rosemary has explained, sickness cover is to cover you in case you are unable to work while you're sick. And I think that is very important. When a person is sick, they are not themselves. They can't really do anything, but they still need to pay their bills. They still need to have that buffer so that they can meet their obligations. And that is what sickness cover is there for. Critical illness cover would cover you for about 60 types of illnesses. So we have illnesses like cancers, we have, you know, high blood pressure related sicknesses, diabetes, and all those sort of sicknesses. So if somebody is seriously ill and they are covered for such sicknesses that are on that list, then they get a payout. So they have money to tide themselves over. The family is not having to worry because the breadwinner is not feeling very well and they can't work. And of course, depending on the type of employment they have, the employer might cover them for maybe a month or two, depending on the contract. And after that, what happens? What if they are not well enough to go back to work? They're in a dilemma. So it's really important to have it. So critical illness cover covers a limited amount of conditions, but serious illness cover covers over 182 conditions. It is more robust, and the probability of getting a payout is higher on serious illness cover in difference to critical illness cover.
I have a question. You just mentioned your employer, or maybe covering you for maybe, because sometimes they might cover you for maybe 1 month or 2 months. Now, if you, for example, go for the maybe serious illness cover and your employer actually covers you for 28 days, does those kind of covers, do they still pay you for that 28 days that your employer is going to pay you for? And yeah. Do they still
They
pay you
still
at the
do.
same time your employer?
They
They
still do,
still
because
do.
remember the 28 days that they are covering you for, you are not working. And the contract you have with the insurer is that if you are unable to work, so the money your employer pays you is part of your contract of employment.
Okay.
Is an obligation they have. It's something that you've signed up to. So the insurance company would pay you if you are unable to work. So
I see.
once it's confirmed that as a result of sickness you are not able to work, then there'll be a payout.
Yeah, I also have another question. The question is, for example, because I've had this, but this is not about sickness. We had one insurance, and we just took the insurance, like, let's say 2 days ago, and it was a car insurance, was breakdown cover. So myself and my husband were just talking, in case of emergency, let's go and take this cover. And 2 days after, the car had a fault, broke down. So good enough, we had taken the insurance like just 2 days. So in the case of like all the sickness cover, maybe you take an insurance like yesterday, and all of a sudden you fell ill today and all that. Does it still cover you, or does it
It
depend
still
on the kind of business?
it still covers you once the cover is in force.
Mm,
Before the cover is live or active, they must have done all due diligence. They must have
mm,
taken all the questions they want to ask, done all the checks they want to cover. They look at your health questions. They might need to refer to your GP depending on what your condition is. And once all that is in place and the sickness occurs, which is of course no fault of yours, and they confirm that it is not something funny going on, then you are eligible for a payout.
yeah. Anyone in the audience watching, if you have had experience of this sort of thing, it's a community where I want people to learn from each other. Please feel free to leave your suggestion in the comments. And if you have questions for Rosemary and Titi, I'll pick it up in the chat and pin it onto the screen so that they can pick that up. But another thing that I've been hearing, well, is self-insuring and transferring risks, which is not. What's the difference? Can you enlighten me on both of them, please?
So self-insuring means that you can handle a loss with your own money. So you already have investments, So it's in difference to having an insurance cover. What does insurance do? It pays out in case of unexpected things happening. But when you have investments anyway, that is a buffer. That is something that you can always fall back on. So in other words, you have enough cash reserves that you don't need to pay an insurance company to use their reserves. So the cover you get from the insurance company is their reserves that they are creating for you. But when you have enough investments. That is self-insuring. So the more you
Mm.
self-insure, the less you need to pay out on covers
Yes.
and insurance. So
Mm.
transferring the risk, you are transferring the risk to the insurance company because you are not bearing the unexpected happening when it does. The insurance company bears that risk. So, like you
Mm.
asked the question, Dr. Bola, that if you had a contract in insurance today and something
Mm.
happens tomorrow, even if you've just paid one premium, they are taking that risk off you. So that's transferring the risk to them in difference to you bearing the risk yourself.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thanks for actually sharing that. And then, Rosemary actually talked about investing, and what do I invest in?
Hmm. Um,
I don't
there
know
are,
if the
there are,
audience agrees. Please, can you
there are
share what you
diverse.
because this I have actually prepared my questions, so I was ready. I was so if you have questions, please, and if you agree with me,
Yeah.
because we need to know what to invest in, isn't it?
Yeah, there are a lot of diverse things you can invest in. On the stock market, you can invest in shares, you can invest in treasury bonds, you can invest in treasury bills, index funds, exchange traded funds. They're all there. You can trade the market, you can do the commodities, forex, depending on what you want to do. But long term investment is different. That means that you put your money in with a potential of or potential for increase later. So, for example, an index fund, people always do index fund because it's low risk. So, what is an index? An index is a mathematical calculation to measure the performance of a country's index. What is an index? FTSE, the S&P 500 in America. The equivalent here is the FTSE, which is the Financial Times and Stock Exchange 100. So they take the 100 successful companies and they take the index of it. So basically, you just buy, index funds. You can buy the indices. So
Mm.
what is an index fund? How does it work? And it's quite cheap to buy one. You can
So
start.
basically, just
I think there's a feedback there. Okay. So for an index fund, it's low risk and you can start as low as £25 monthly. And that depending on the platform that you use, you don't pay any platform fees, even though there are service fees at the end of the year, but you don't pay any form of platform fee to buy index funds. Whereas if you buy shares, you have to pay a certain amount of money. And index funds are low risk and you have to do it for a long time. And remember, we talked about compound interest. Compound interest is what builds your investment. So let me use an example of A and B. Somebody, let's say A, started investing at the age of 18 and started putting in 5,000 every year. But when the person got to the age of 35, they stopped. B started investing at the age of 35. Now remember, A has more money in there and stopped. The money A has in there will start compounding and compounding until she wants to, until it matures and they decide to have the money released to them. B is still paying. B is going to pay more than A because B started late. So what am I trying to say? It's better to start investing when you're young. From when you're born to when you die, that's when you invest. And you pick, depending on your appetite of risk. Some people have no appetite for risk. So, you can go for index funds. I mean, I do index funds. And basically, I mean, there's certain monies that come out of my account every month. And I buy indices on the stock market. I use a platform and I don't pay any. But I also buy shares to invest. And the thing about shares is they're very volatile. They're high risk. If the company should cease trading, or if the company goes into liquidation, or if they have any problem, the shares will drop. But the good thing about it is that when the shares drop, you still continue to buy because the shares may go up. So in the pandemic, a lot of companies, the shares dropped. They dropped so bad. I will use Tesla, which is a share. The company dropped. The shares dropped as much as $200. Well, if you had invested in Tesla, then Tesla was about £900. So that means that £700 been wiped off your investment. Now Tesla is doing back up, is going back up. Tesla was about £900 about 3 weeks ago. So one share is £900. So some people stayed in there. Some people bought Tesla, when Tesla is an electrical vehicle company. They do vehicles, electric vehicles. So now the people that bought it then when it crashed have over £400 or £600 per share. Also for index funds, they are long-term and they would gradually grow and grow and grow. So for people who have low risk, they might want to go for index fund. Some people who have high appetite like I do both, you can go for shares, but you need to understand the risk before you go into investments because they're quite rewarding. And it's sometimes it's win-win when you take your money out if you're trading or if you want long-term or short-term. Some people do short-term. The moment they see an increase in their money, they just take it out. And then they wait and then they go and buy again. And once it goes up, maybe for 2 months or 3 months, they take the money out again. But that's dependent on the stock exchange. And we can never tell where, the fluctuation, when it's going to fluctuate on the stock exchange. So investment is key because you can use that for your retirement. You can lock in your money on index funds till you retire. And remember, I did say compound interest. The money keeps compounding and it doubles and doubles and doubles till it matures and then you can have access to the money.
My ears were just itching, in my ears I could just hear index fund.
Can I just say something? I forgot to say, you have to have a diversified portfolio. So don't just buy electric vehicles. Don't just buy, don't just buy tech. Buy different. Go into pharmaceuticals. Go into retail sectors. Go into the banking sectors, the property sector. Make sure your portfolio is diversified so that even if one, is affected by the stock market, you still have others that are working for you. So you're not all techie, i.e., buying things in the tech, what's it called, in the tech industry. So try to buy things in different. So I have like retail. I have a lot of tech. I don't know. I'm a tech person. I have a lot of index funds because I believe in index funds, and I'm looking into buying. I have airlines, because the airline industry wasn't doing well before, but now it's picking up.
Yeah.
You can buy different things, but make sure that your portfolio is not just one sector, because if the sector goes down, just like tech sector has gone down now, so if you have a lot of your investment in tech, your portfolio will go down. But it's a long run, and people need to stay in it for a long run. You can't just come out because the stock market has gone down, because you can actually start investing when it goes down, because you're buying the stocks at a lower price so that when it goes back up, then you can, make your profits.
Yes, there is a question that says that please can you share details of please share details of sites one can go to buy index funds.
Yes. Before you go into investing, please, you need to be educated enough, i.e., maybe go on a course. There are some courses that run so that because buying index funds or buying shares is not as straightforward. You need to be able to do your financial analysis. What do I mean by that? You need to be able to read, read the reports. What is the company all about? Do they have any dividends? Because obviously you want dividends as well. You need to be able to analyze the company before you invest in them. If they're not doing so well, you don't want to put your money in a company that's not doing so well. So hence the reason why I said you may need to go on 1 or 2 courses to know what to do to be able to invest in a company, to know, so that your investment is not going down the drain because you picked a company that's not worth investing in. Also, you might need a financial advisor that might advise you about, about the stock market, platforms to buy stocks in. I use Hargreaves Lansdown, but that is me personally. Hargreaves Lansdown, if you Google it, that's where I do my investment in. And like I said, there are fees for some shares, and for index funds, none. But you still have to pay a service charge every month or every year. So before you start investing or going for long-term investment, please find a course on investment that they teach you the art of investing, what to look out for, what is it, what kind of companies and things like that before you start investing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I don't know, I just want to ask for this freebie on behalf of the audience. I don't know if the people want to hear more about these investments and protection and all that, if they can have one-to-ones with you, so that I don't know if Rosemary and Titi will be happy to do that. To maybe, because sometimes these sessions are not enough to get the full details. So I don't know, are you happy? For I'm
Yes.
putting, I know I'm putting it on the spot. I'm actually doing that on purpose, because to be honest, after last week, I had lots of people come to me and ask, "Oh, can we get one-to-one with them?" I said, "Yeah, they have offered to, so, and maybe moving that forward from last week, if you want more information on all these. Yeah, thank you, thanks for offering and wanting. So I would probably leave their details later, in maybe in the caption, and if you want to watch the replay, I'll leave their details there for you too. But then the other question is, after all these investments and spending so much and buying the right stock, and what of planning, estate planning? That's another very, I've been into this, so it's something I'm actually looking at. I've been looking at back to back, and that's why how about estate? I don't know if Titilola can actually enlighten us on estate planning.
Yes, Dr. Bola. Estate planning is about leaving a legacy. You don't want to do all that hard work and then it goes to the state, or it's all for nothing. So leaving a legacy is money or property received from an ancestor by people after the ancestor dies. That's leaving property or possessions for beneficiaries, and it ensures that people get what they deserve, or what their ancestors have worked hard for. It remains within the family, so it's all not for nothing. So you've done all the investments, you've built that portfolio, the diversified portfolio Rosemary has talked about. Maybe you've bought property. You need to leave a legacy. And how do you do that? It's not just by buying it and believing that, oh, yes, I've bought this property and we live in the property together. And then automatically you will go to the necessary people. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We need to leave instructions about who it should go to. And we do this by making a will.
Mm.
We do this by making a will. What is a will? A will is a legal document that tells what a person wants to be done with their property, their investments, and their assets after their death. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe in this. You know, when you talk to people, especially in certain cultures, when you talk about will, they're like, oh, they feel negative about it. They're like, oh, are you wishing me dead, or is there something I don't know? And I'm like, no, but it's something that needs to be done. It's something you need to put in place. What are the reasons for having a will or for making a will? It protects the loved ones, from the properties being taken off them. There's
Yes.
a bit of protection there. We've talked about protection before, but this is another one. It protects them and it ensures that the estate is dealt with the way the owner of the estate intended. It provides children that are not, if there's a marriage, for example, and there are children from other marriages, or maybe stepchildren, or maybe foster children, it protects them because it means that they would be able to benefit from the assets. Without that, the rules of the law supersedes anything that is written down. Without that. So it's important to have a will so that we can leave a good legacy. And if we have cases where there are people living together, maybe they have not been able to formalize their union, it protects the other person. Without that, there's nothing to benefit. It safeguards the family home. It reduces inheritance tax.
Mm.
So there are so many reasons why it is important to leave an instruction. Even the money in the bank doesn't automatically go to the family. It
Mm.
goes to the state. If nobody, if within a long time, a long period of time, that money is just sitting there and nobody claims it. In 2013 alone, 33.5 million went to the government from people who died intestate. And dying intestate means dying without a will, which is sad. It's really sad because the beneficiaries don't have access to this money. So it's really important to make a will in leaving a legacy. We're working very hard. We're making plans. We're talking about financial planning. We're talking about financial freedom. What is the purpose? The purpose is not just for you to benefit from you while you're alive. It is also for you to be able to pass it down to your children. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I like your choice of words because sometimes when maybe people hear will, it scares them off. But I like that your choice of words of instruction, of how you want your hard-earned investment to be used. And of course, sadly, we all owe of having to leave at some point. So, but then you want to leave that instruction of this is how I want my estate to be managed. This is how I want my finances to be managed. And yeah, I like that you have actually shared the importance and why we should all put this in place. And yeah, for those that are just joining us, we've actually talked about emergency funds, we've talked about protections, we've talked about investments, we've talked about estate planning. But before I let you go, because you've actually shared a lot, Mary, what quick tip would you give to users, or what is the first step you give to people who want to be financially free, who want to learn about emergency fund? What's the quick tip you give to them, or the first step per se?
I mean, the first step is a mindset.
Hmm.
Mindset. You can't do anything without, thinking in your heart, I want to do this. I actually want to put money aside for eventualities. everything that we do starts with the mindset. The moment you put yourself in a place to say, I am going to do this, everything works in your favor to do that. So the mindset is very key to emergency, funds or planning. I mean, we've talked about four topics here, but there are more topics to your freedom to financial planning. We've only just taken 4 out of it. There are about 12 to 14 steps. And that's because I felt that, emergency funds are things that people don't normally do. I know people say, oh, I put money aside, and then they easily dip. But start today. I'm going to use myself because I never used to do that as well. I started, was it November I started? And then out of curiosity, but I have a money box. I didn't put mine in them. So I have to now make sure that I go and put mine in the bank now because I'm preaching it. So I have to do it. And I started in November and I just opened my money box and I have over 400 pounds. I have over 400 pounds, and that's not inclusive of other things that I'm doing, like 10% here and there that I'm doing, but just the emergency that should, in case I have an emergency, and I'm building it. But I need to move it from my money box now and go and move it into a bank account. I can't even access it in my money box. I can open it, but to start, that alone solves half of the problems that we have in a home. When issues arise that we are not thinking about, that just hits us, and I believe that it is key to financial planning because there are a lot of steps of things that we need to do, but that's one of it. If you lose your job today, do you have anything that you're going to actually fall back on? That's something I need you to think about. If they say to you, and there's no job for life anymore, and now, since they have figured out that people can work from home, there are a lot of, jobs just disappearing. It's just disappearing. And sometimes they actually demote you. Some people have been on furlough and they've not been able to manage. If you have an emergency fund there, it helps. It actually helps. So I would say that in order to make use of everything, you actually need a financial plan. It's a sat nav to you being debt-free and being financially independent. We all want to be financially independent. Emergency funds make you financially independent because you don't have to go to your friends. You don't have to go to anybody when, when you have an emergency, because you have the money there. So for me, you need to have a full financial plan done. What are your expenses going in and out? How much do you have to save? I mean, Titi spoke about leaving a legacy. What have you got towards your retirement? Do you even know what your retirement looks like? Do you know how much you need to retire? These are all the questions I can help you answer by doing you a financial game plan. So, and also estate planning. Titi mentioned something about estate. It promotes family harmony when everybody knows what they are going to get. I mean, I come from a culture sometimes where, the parent passes away and there's no will. And then there's sibling rivalry. This person wants to get this. This person feels, they looked after dad and mom the best, so they should get the chunk of the estate. And so you have sibling rivalry. And then you've known people to, do strange things because they feel entitled to whatever has been left. So I like the fact that, it promotes family harmony. Everybody knows what they are going to get. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's eye opening, and there is a question from Elizabeth Nigo here, and it says, thank you for this informative session. Please, do you need a solicitor to make a will, or is there another option? I don't know if Titilola can give us? Because some people cannot afford a solicitor. Are there other options, for those that cannot, or is it a case where you must have a solicitor?
Thanks, Dr. Bola. No, you don't need a solicitor to make a will. There are cheap options available. There are templates that you can use to draft a will. However, it is important to be guided over the process of making a will because there are a lot of layers to go through. And making a will is not enough. It has to be valid. So if it isn't valid, it's as good as not having one. So seek professional advice if unsure, but making a basic one it doesn't require any expertise. You can just use some templates to draft one. And also, you need to know where your assets are. You need to know what you have. List them out. Revise them as you add or dispose of assets because you might have something today and then you decide to sell it tomorrow. So you can review your will from time to time and make sure your will is official. Because in absence of having a will, in the UK, for example, I don't know where our viewers are watching us from, we have something called the intestacy rule. And if there is no will, for example, if you have a couple with children, the asset passes to the other person. It doesn't even go to the children. So you want your children to be taken care of, you need to have a will. It's now not an idea of I don't believe in it or something. You need to have one. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for this valuable. I don't know if the audience still have questions. Please leave the questions there. We've talked about. I think I need to go and start. Start maybe buying I need to buy a small box to start putting additional. In addition to the 10, is it 10, 70, 20 you shared?
10, 10, 10, 70.
10, 10, 10, 70.
70.
Yes.
Emergency fund. I need to actually take it very, very, very serious. And yeah, I like that you talked about if, for example, we lost our jobs. I think I was in a session a couple of months ago, and somebody was saying you need to have at least 3 months of your wages kept somewhere in case we don't know what the world is holding. So you need to have that kept somewhere. 2 months, 3 months, in case you land. I think a good place to start is having the emergency fund. Yeah. So thanks for sharing all those tips. And
sorry, Dr. Bola, can I come in there just to correct you there? 3 to 6 months, not 3 months.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just remember that the person said you need to. It's not. No, the person was not saying that. The session was not about you going to lose your job, but in case you don't know what's going to happen. People are cutting down on their staff and they are looking for very silly excuses, looking for very silly excuses to say this is the reason why we need to lay you off or we need to make you redundant or something like that. So you need to actually have that so that you have ample time to prepare and know what the next step is. You can pay your bills and all that. So yeah, thanks for opening our eyes to all this. Thanks for talking about the emergency fund, the protection. And yes, I know that Rosemary and Titilola have agreed that if you want additional sessions to talk in more details, their details are on our page. I'll leave them down in the caption as well, so that you can get in touch with them. But finally, before we go, Titilola, do you have any final tips for them?
Yes, I was talking about intestacy. I think people need to get more information about their specific circumstances. What we've spoken about today is generic, and we can go into more details when people actually have a proper financial plan done. This is not about people saying, "Oh, I'm not in debt or anything," but you need to make sure you have a proper plan that covers everything that you need to do with your finances, both now and in the future. So that is something that is very important for people to consider. Look at every aspect of your finances. It's not just you looking at, oh, I want to get a mortgage now. What is your long-term goal? What is your plan for the future? What goals and dreams do you want to fulfill? How do you want to fulfill them? What is the timeline for fulfilling those goals and dreams? We need to have a review of all these things so that we can leave a legacy and prepare to have a good financial future. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. There is one question here from El Amusan. It says, should we put our emergency fund in a bank or investment? I don't know if Titilola can share your thoughts on this. Yeah.
Yeah, emergency funds should be in the bank.
Yes.
It's in
Yes.
addition to investment. Your emergency
Mm,
fund is something that you can easily access in case of emergency. If it's in an investment, it's not easily accessible.
That's right.
Investment is for long-term planning,
Yeah. Yeah.
capital appreciation. Emergency fund is like Rosemary had that coin box, somewhere, and she found out that it was almost £400. It's something that you can easily reach out for if there's something you need to attend to urgently. So you don't put it in an investment. It can be in a bank, but make sure it is accessible for the right
wow.
reasons.
Thank
And
you.
can I
Thank you.
also add to that?
Yeah.
Not your current account, please. It has to be a bank where a different bank, and it shouldn't be easily accessible. It should be accessible, but not easily accessible. Yeah,
Yeah.
but not the
I
same bank,
think
not in the
that
current account. Yes.
yeah, that has clarified the question.
Okay.
Thank you so
All right.
much. And everyone that has watched this, if you find this very useful, please can you give it a thumbs up and just keep throwing the love buttons and the like just to anyone that you think would find this very useful. And yes, thank you for joining. Again, this is the Bola Adeyeye Omishade Show, a community where we support people to be the best version of themselves. Thanks for watching, and until I see you again next week, this is Bola. And thanks to Rosemary and to Titilola for sharing, for your time. I know your time is valuable. Thanks for sharing it with us and being part of this community. I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Bola.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.